Just to give you a quick update, kind of what's going on, everybody. So, Tuesday, we're doing a workshop. I'm leading this one on how to work on, not in your business. So that's Tuesday every week at 10 o'clock Central. And then Wednesday, it's really looking at kind of how to get in front of the right people, how to create opportunities. And that includes like LinkedIn and digital marketing and presentations, like lots of things like this. And that's the one yesterday, 1 o'clock Central every week. And then obviously this one, and what we've added after this now, and you can kind of come in whenever you want or leave whenever you want. We're going to do an hour of one-to-one networking. So breaking people down into those sub rooms and then coming back up and sort of going back down with different people. So we're going to do that every week. It's the same link. So if you don't want to come to this, come to that, vice versa. If you want to stay for 15 minutes, that's fine too. And then tomorrow at 11 o'clock Central every week, we're doing revenue connections, and that's about hyper connecting as opposed to networking into other centers of influence. So really high end sort of connecting. So today we've got Stephanie Saunders. I'm really excited about this. And we talked, I don't know what, like over a month ago or something. And you said so many things that were like really intriguing to me. So you got to that level, like we're all trying to get to, I think, being the Forbes, one of the, top social media influencers, Forbes 2020, getting on that list and doing all the things you're doing and really getting known and building a business off of getting known. And it just really does come down to that a lot for, you have a big audience, you're going to make money. It's just the fundamental thing. And we've heard this from different speakers too, who've done this on different platforms. And what was so intriguing to me about it is you came into it looking for experts to teach you how to do it. And it was a disaster. Like it didn't work at all. And then you got in the trenches and figured it out. And I think people will be really interested in that experience, because as we try to do this, we all know how hard it is to really do it. And you figured out the secret, and there's a lot of different people doing the same thing. So I'll just put it on pause and turn it over to you, and anybody who has questions or commentary, just put yourself in the chat and we'll bring you up. And Stephanie, you just kind of run this however you want. So
okay,
if you want to share slides, that's fine. However you want to do it.
Well, I'll say that there are probably a lot of people who would be a little bit upset with me sharing that I have figured it out on my own without their expertise.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think that we have like this big secret cloak around us where we have to rely on someone else to figure out how to leverage social media. And I don't think that that's fair. Because I don't think it's reality. I think I'll share a little bit about how I got started and why, and sort of what has really been the biggest thing for us in terms of company revenue, and then personal gains, really. So I have never wanted to use social media for business purposes. It was always very private for me, which I know a lot of people in like the corporate world can relate to that because it's not familiar, right? Facebook was like a social thing. Not everyone even got into it. I worked with a lot of sales professionals who were strictly B2B, wining and dining and events. So when the pandemic hit, I really shifted completely and started relying on making video marketing, and we saw the light. Right. So in order to get there, though, we took a few courses on how to make videos, how to really script things. And it was very costly. We put one of the companies that I am a big part of, which is my husband's company, is United Claim Specialists. We have a team of about 20 people that are just sales. So we put them all into this course. It was about $10,000 a person to do the video course. So it was a big commitment, right? But we really thought, hey, the pandemic is here. We need to give all of these people a tool to figure out how to really leverage themselves And it was a total sham. It was a pre-recorded course that you followed, and you learned how to storytell, which I personally feel like you can watch some Google videos or pay attention to LinkedIn and figure out how to do on your own yourself. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you agree with that, anybody? I
No,
haven't.
Stephanie, I think you're right. There's a lot of just bad content out there that people are paying a lot of money for.
Right. And so I think the whole thought of like giving away free material to help people, it's real, right? So when I started to, after we spent all this money,
I want to interject one thing too,
yeah.
to kind of put the other side in. There's technical skills and shifts in mindset where having someone on your team really does make a difference. And I'll give a specific call out to John Scott on the call here. When I started this whole thing last year, I realized, and I'm not afraid of public speaking at all. And I was in Toastmasters for 3 years, and I realized I could not do this on video and win. There's absolutely no way. And John and I worked together for a few months, and he taught me how to do it. But it was not $10,000, and it was John and me, and it was personal, and it worked. There was value. And I think what you're saying is there's a lot of fraudsters out there where the value isn't there.
Right, right. And I completely agree with you. Like, I'm not a very good public speaker, so I've taken courses. So that's not courses, I'm sorry, one-on-one sessions where I'm practicing, I'm building speeches, stuff like that's valuable, but the course or the sessions are $75 an hour. So, and you know what I mean? And it's real. If I'm not feeling the value, then I'm not locked into anything. So look, I agree that there are just fraudsters out there where they're creating this bubble where you believe you have to pay all this money in to get something extremely valuable. And then you don't really know what it is until the end. And you realize, wow, I could have probably done that on my own. So that was our initial start, right? And then we hired another company that's very, very large company, but they focus on small businesses in one of their divisions. So that was also a flop. It was very much so geared towards like Facebook ads, which have been around for a long time. So to say that I personally got started off on a very interesting, costly foot would be an understatement. And then when I just started being myself, I realized I am not someone who can get onto a video and, kind of be an infomercial, right? I'm more someone who does better having real discussions and then snipping that up. We learned how to find our own video editors. I then hired a lot of them and created my own company out of it. But I think it was through all of this that had really shown me what worked best was just being myself. And so once I started doing that and being active and getting involved in groups and different, support networks, there are a lot of things that I think people hide. For example, we focus a lot on real estate. You can find pods that are all about real estate engagement. And there are thousands of people who are actively using LinkedIn that are also in these pods. And so they're potential clients for you, but it's very direct. And they do, what is the term? It's like challenges, right? So they'll challenge each other to do a post a day for a month. And you can search these challenges by looking up hashtags. So if your industry is technology B2B, whatever that means to you, you look up that hashtag like technology challenge, you will probably find a challenge that's ongoing and a group of people who are active on the platform that could be either potential support partners in terms of your content, which gets you out into their network. So there are a lot of little tricks I think people are afraid to share that I think we should all be willing to give to each other because it just grows everyone. So when we started doing stuff like that and really, again, just being authentic and showing up every day, I got the feature in Forbes, and it was kind of a turning point that led to probably almost a 100% increase in business for 3 of my companies, and a lot of opportunities for my personal endeavor, which is a nonprofit. So that's kind of the gist. Yeah, it's really exciting, but also anyone can do it. I'm a brand new creator, always a consumer turned creator in under a year. And I think this is a pretty good example of the fact that anyone can make it happen.
So how did the Forbes relationship work? How did that happen?
I had no relationship. I think it was just being active, and I got a message one day at the end of the year in 2020. It was really, more like January 2021. Hey, check out this article. And I didn't see it for a few days. And when I read it, I was like, oh my God, I started running around. Really, I think that these contributors want to be relevant also. So they pay attention to who's doing what, right? Their articles have to be readable or of interest to their consumer. So this particular contributor happened to be like social media tech ongoings, and it made sense. I was very honored and humbled.
So you really didn't do anything. Like you
No.
didn't take like a you didn't watch a course on YouTube on, how to get a Forbes editor to find you, or it just, you were yourself authentically, you put your personality out there, good content consistently, and you got found.
Yeah, but I will say that when I'm looking for something now that I recognize, I never really thought that publications like that made a difference, but it really did make a big difference. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in, right? It's very, you want to see titles and activity, and it seems cooler, right? That's my take on it. I'm very honest. So I think that from that, I've now realized, get more specific, right? So if I want to be featured in something that is related to real estate, I'll make sure that I'm connected to Forbes contributors that are in that market. And I try to engage with their activity and their content so they see me as well. So if I want to, be targeted now, I kind of know a little bit better of how to.
So John, you had I know you're doing some things in this domain, right? Did you have some commentary or questions then about it?
Yeah, I had a question, Stephanie. How long had you been releasing videos before Forbes reached out to you?
It was about a full 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I really started focusing on making the content as soon as the pandemic happened. So I would say, March was really when it started getting real. And then by May, I was pretty consistent every single day.
So your rhythm with releasing videos was a daily video, and what platforms?
So I do not do a daily video, actually. I do 2 videos a week typically. And I really have only used LinkedIn for that kind of content. Yeah, I don't actually appreciate many other platforms the way that I do LinkedIn. I think Instagram is more of like, I don't know if anyone has used Instagram, but I don't find it to be of value for me. I'm not a product. I don't have a click and buy option. And so I find that Instagram gets you lost in the weeds when you're trying to find specific niche markets. You don't actually know who anyone is, what they do. You can't look up a resume. You can't see any mutual connection. So LinkedIn really gives you this additional connection to what people are. But on Instagram, I post photos occasionally. And on LinkedIn, I do 6 days a week, Monday being like motivational, and Tuesday and Thursday being more video driven, specific to niche market stuff.
That is so cool. If I could ask one more question. So one of the things that I see standing out about you is that, you have an amazing, strong visual brand. And so how much is that part of your rhythm in terms of working with photographer, graphic artists, and things like that?
So I'll be real. That's two-sided, right? So I get a lot of backlash. Oh, well, you only do well because you post selfies. Right. So it's interesting because when I think about that, there are things that I post on LinkedIn in terms of a selfie that I would not use on another platform because it's too professional and I'm more in work mode. Right. So I think that everyone should post a selfie. It doesn't matter what you look like, right? If you want to edit it and make it graphic and you want to have some words on it and create motivation, people want to see your face. So I think you have to kind of put your physical self into your brand. But I also think that you have to have some catchy color, right? I mean, I want to be attracted to something. I like to see bright things, yellow. What are you doing to stop people in their feed, right? How do you get their attention? So I think you have to rely on at least 50% of your brand being visual.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear from others in the room about this, because I know for myself, it took my partner hammering me for weeks and months. John, get that photo shoot. I was like, okay. It's like, I just felt so kind of unnatural and sort of pompous to put myself out there in that way. And I bet you there's others out here that have that same feeling.
I'll add Randy up here first because he raised his hand for a question, but JD, if you're willing to come up and talk about this, you got this down too, or no, have a lot of opinions about it after Randy, but there's so many people with sort of an iconography approach, and Stephanie, you have that with that flower.
Right.
And LinkedIn doesn't allow you to put that in your headline there, but people are doing it, and as long as nobody complains, they're not taking it down. But I know, like Leah Turner, actually, they shut hers down because she wouldn't take it out. And then she said, "I'm changing my name legally to I forget what her thing is." And then they said, "Okay, we're fine with it." But it's like, it seems like those things really make a difference. And I know JD's familiar with that kind of stuff with his imagery too.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in visual branding. I like Stephanie's comment. I don't want to steal her thunder, but stopping people in their tracks. We are just sailing through the LinkedIn homepage with a sense of unconscious competence. It's really become the classified ads, to be honest with you. There's not a lot of discourse on the platform anymore. It's all about, here's what I do, here's what I sell, connect with me, engage with me. I'm building a brand. I don't know how. I'm kind of going through motions here. I'm looking at what other people do. I'm following those patterns, and it just becomes a sea of sameness out there. So to truly stand out on the platform, to Stephanie's point, it takes something. Figure it out, improvise it, borrow from people, emulate selectively. But in the end, to Stephanie's original point, it's all about the A word, authenticity.
Yeah. I hate being sold. And a lot of the people that we originally were sold by that, found out later was not really the best investment. I think they're sellers and they sell. And after a while, it kind of gets old. And I don't really believe then anything that they're saying when they are being authentic, because it's just too much. And I mean, look, you have to figure out there is a fine line. You have to figure out how to do that well. But I think it's also this is your place to capture people and to create real relationships with your potential clients. So you don't need to sell.
Hey, Randy, how are you? Haven't seen you for a little while. I know you've been busy.
Yeah, a lot of traveling. First, just a comment about authenticity, because Larry, to your credit, I think one of the things that brings me back to this program is that you really do bring people that are very authentic onto the show, or whatever you shoot to your webinar. Just going back to your other point, though, Stephanie, in terms of Forbes, I'm wondering if you've reached out. Well, let me make a comment first. If you think about what's happened in media from the standpoint of the internet and how it's impacted magazines like Forbes and Fortune and Wired and many others that are that get quite good readership. And when you think about, who's left, who's really reading those publications, there are people who are very passionate about those magazines. And I know, as someone who in my previous career was a publisher and published a lot of magazines, I'm very passionate about magazines. There's certain ones that I love to read, Entrepreneur being one of them. And certainly one that, it would seem would be worth, adding to your list. Have you reached out to Fortune or Entrepreneur? Because what happens oftentimes, if someone sees something in Forbes and you can reference that you've had a story in Forbes, they're always looking for good content.
Right.
And if they like the story about you in Forbes, maybe it's a little different spin that they'll ask you to comment on, but it's a very good chance you could get coverage in some of the other magazines as well. Have you looked into that?
No, not really. I mean, I think that it's definitely, that's a great suggestion. I think that's awesome, and I will definitely look into it. But I also think that, what is real, like that genuine being picked out of that bunch and not paying for it and not pushing for it. It was like so authentic and organic, right? I'm not saying that I'll just hope that that continues to happen for me, but I think that I guess I'm coming from a place where I'm not trying to push the agenda too much in that regard, but I will explore it. Sure.
No, I think just from the standpoint of posting, I don't know if you did this, but I assume you posted the story that ran.
Of course.
Yeah. But I wouldn't be shy about just reaching out to editors at, and certainly you can find them through LinkedIn.
Sure.
And these people are looking for content. I mean, they're looking for interesting stories, and I think if you can just spin it a little bit differently, they don't want to tell the same story.
Right.
But you're obviously somebody who is interesting enough to be in Forbes. And if you're in Fortune or you're Wired or you're Entrepreneur or some of the other business publications out there, trade publications that are still around, they probably would find it of interest. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Well, thank you.
Awesome.
Sure.
Thanks, Randy. So Karen, you had your hand up there.
Hi, I wanted to make a comment about what you said, a couple of things that I see a lot, and the proof is in the pudding with your experience, in that there are so many people that are selling things. And I think that it also puts pressure on us as entrepreneurs to feel that we need to be selling something too. And when I started my business about a year ago, but when I started and I remember I took a Facebook course, and it wasn't terribly expensive. Let's say it was $200, but the quality was so poor of the video. I mean, her dog was barking in one of and she didn't cut it out. And this was a woman who had over 300,000 followers on Facebook and was an influencer with the company. And it was shocking to me. And there's so much crap out there. And I think and the same with the PR, people selling you PR that you don't really need. And I think the challenge for a lot of small business owners who don't have access, who don't have big networks, like someone like me who doesn't come from corporate, I'm always trying to weed out and vet who are the good ones and who are the bad ones so that I can help my clients. But I think that's it's a really hard thing. And many, many business owners spend many, many hundreds and thousands of dollars on crap that is sold as like the ultimate way to get you wherever you need to go. And I think it just proves that you need to really, really vet. You really need to show me, before I spend the money, show me where you're going to give me the value. And you're too busy to worry about that. So you just say, I'll fix it, or this woman's going to fix it for me. So
right. But I also think we live in like the era of free content.
Yes.
We have so much access to being able to find things. Now, whether you find people of quality giving free content is one thing, right? But you can probably be the judge of that from some trial and error. So I just feel like you almost don't need to pay for anything anymore. I listen to these people talk about, selling a course to teach you how to be a realtor. I just don't get it. I don't know how they're hooking people into this perspective when you can go and watch 100 YouTube videos from the best of the best in the world, and then maybe intern under someone who is the top producer in your community. I don't know. I just think we have a lot available. I feel like there should be a limit on what we're willing to spend for this kind of education now.
And I think people want a quick fix. That's why they're willing to,
Right.
to try and get it in that one course that's going to fix it.
It's an abdication of responsibility to somebody else to solve the problem. That's in a quick fix mentality. Exactly. And one of the things I'm doing right now is curation. So we've had probably 60 speakers since I started this thing, 60. So we're going to start a speaker community to bring the speakers together. But there's another piece of it, which we're going to call climbing guides. So when we're working, Dave and I are working on this right now for September, when we really launched the company, but launched the platform, is the climbing guides are associated with we're calling it a revenue operating system, which are all the things that are needed to be successfully self-employed. It's curated. And the way you curate it, or at least for me, is I talk to the person. And you can tell right away if somebody's full of crap. It's not that hard.
Agreed.
And then what's underneath is good. So I think paying for like a really, really good course it can be worth it, because they've organized things if they have empathy and care about how people learn. And you can really learn it. So there's all this it depends stuff going on here, and how you learn and what you need. But fundamentally, to me, you take responsibility for your own success. Nobody has an answer. You have to customize it for yourself. Nobody's going to give you the 5 steps to freedom and you can get an airplane like they have. It's not going to work for sure. But then somebody's got to curate some of this too. And I think find the good people.
Right. You know what I would be willing to spend in terms of a course now, which I almost feel like you would have rather maybe even hire a company or person to do the email funnels. That's a very difficult process, and it's a very time-consuming thing. It's almost like having a blog creator. It's sort of falling into that. Like, I don't even look at my emails anymore because I get so many of them. People that I really want to communicate with know how to find me. But I think every company should be doing emails, and I think it's a tough skill to learn.
Yeah, so that's great that you mentioned that. So we have somebody in our community. God, he just spoke last week, and I talked to him all the time. I can't remember his name. It was
Ed.
Oh,
Ed. Thank you, Ed. So Ed is Forteau. Ed Forteau. So there's a video in our Wednesday channel, and Ed Forteau talks about email marketing and email deliverability. He is a master at this, and he has some very low cost offerings to do it. He's doing some stuff with Troy right now, Hippolito, to promote Troy's event, and it's working. But it's very interesting you say that, because I think there's certain competencies, like learning how to speak. You can't do that by yourself unless you just do it, right? Doing funnels is really, really hard.
Yeah, it is. It's very technical and it's very time consuming. And, once I think someone has created like the tiers for you, then you can perfect it as a business owner, and the language you want out there. But I think setting that whole system up is difficult.
It's interesting you said that, because I wrote my own funnel.
Yeah.
I write everything myself. And then it goes to Dave on our team, who's got a really high level communication and technical capability. And he steps back and kind of looks at it and reorganizes pieces. But we've also worked with a professional copywriter.
Mm-hmm.
But if you give a professional copywriter something that's finished, then they make it great. As opposed to saying to them, oh, here's what I want you to say. And then they go do it, and it's completely off track every time. So I don't know. It's like learning how to work with these kind of supporting systems is really hard.
Right.
Pear, how are you?
I'm good. And how are you?
Good.
The reason I raised my hand is that content is important, but especially when as we spend our lives on Zoom, I'm probably going to do it for another year or so.
Mhm.
I think it's really important how we come across on these platforms. And I don't know if you saw my email, Larry, from a couple of days ago, but I introduced a guy called Ken Sky that I think could be very valuable to the community here, because what he does is he teaches people on how to look good on Zoom.
Yes, I reached out to him.
Yeah, and
Like visually?
I'm sorry.
Like visually?
Yeah, visually, yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I see in the among the people on this call, I see several that could certainly benefit from his help. You know, so no, I mean, I think it's important. I mean,
Yeah.
Stephanie, you look great. And
It's all about the lighting.
it
Do
is
you want
lighting.
to
and it's,
see my lighting? Hold on. This is the trick. These lights
yeah,
are a huge game changer.
Yeah.
yeah.
They
But then you
really
also
are.
then you also want a separate camera.
Right.
I'm not running my separate camera at the moment, but I have a real, you know, a mirrorless SLR, and it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
You know, and I have similar lighting to what you have. Yeah, it's an investment. But I think it's and we're talking about an investment of maybe $1,000 to $1,500, but that may be worth it, you know.
Or less.
So that was just my
Yeah.
2 cents.
Yeah, I think the lights that I have cost me about $200, and I use a Logitech. It's just a webcam that sits on top of my laptop, and it's pretty sufficient. I do have a microphone that helps also, but I probably spent under 500 on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was just my 2 cents.
Okay.
I'll put the lights brand in there. I see that was a question. Let me pull it up for you.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And, if anybody
What kind of microphone you got there?
Actually,
Stephanie?
this
that
is
the
really-
MB7?
It's a really great Shure mic.
Is that the MB7?
It
SMB7?
is, I'll tell you right now what it is. It is the MV7. Yes, good job.
That is $500 by itself, isn't it?
I think I got it refurbished on Amazon, and it's great. So
It's a
you
good
can, yeah, you can find them. I mean, less than 500. I think brand new, it's about 500.
Great. Hey, Remco, how are you?
Morning, Larry. Good morning, Stephanie. Good morning, group.
Morning.
I'm fine. Thank you, Stephanie, for your information, and thank you, Larry, for bringing on these awesome guests. I've got a question for you, though. The thing that I'm struggling with right now is content.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in consulting, and how do you stand out? Because everybody now has lost their job. Everybody's doing all these things now. Everybody's a consultant. Everybody's a business coach. Everybody. So in your case, I'm assuming you have a structure around the content that you're presenting. And the problem that I'm having, the struggle I'm having, is figuring out what type of content and how to be consistent in the road that you're traveling. And I don't know if others have the same thing, because you start off and then you're very enthusiastic, but then you burn out quickly because, okay, what's the next step? So how did you figure that road out? Or did you have an end goal and then just work towards it step by step as baby steps?
I think this is the best question for all of us, because the reality is we all get burned out, right? So you can tell when I'm a little more creative and I have these very elaborate stories about how certain things have impacted my career and what has led me to where. And then I have other days where I just, true or false, right? But it's always authentic. So I think there is a strategy. And that starts with being willing to share my experience. I'm sure a lot of you have more of a story to share than I do. And if you really dove into your career journey and the lessons you've learned and dissecting that, and you don't realize who you would be impacting if you just start sharing that in more creative ways. Right. So I happen to have started my career during a recession, which was the housing crisis back in 2005 to 2010. So from that, I took a job that was not what I had originally intended. And I ended up, climbing the corporate ladder, and I did a lot of marketing. I learned, corporate strategy. And then I also learned real estate investing from a different perspective. So not in a million years did I think that this was very interesting to anyone. But then now here we are, there's a pandemic, and I recognize that I have kind of been here before, right? Where you have to pivot, right? We know that was the word of last year, right? Pivot. So I won't play it out. But the fact is that I was able to start sharing my personal journey and experience in more creative ways without being, like I'm just talking about myself. It was more trying to relate to people that were going through this same thing, and even sharing stories of other people who had been through something similar and kind of tying that into a relatable discussion. And that was huge. So I'm sure if you really thought about it and you gave yourself an afternoon a month and you said, okay, today I want to motivate people, that's my Monday post. And you created a story that was relatable that people could attach themselves to and appreciate, then there's one day of content. And then, Tuesday, you share a little bit about how you helped a client, right? An authentic share. And then Wednesday is maybe something more current events. And so it starts to mold itself when you really put it in. What do you want to be seeing online?
That's very helpful. Yeah, it does.
So when I get this, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. Yeah, this is very helpful because it does get your juices flowing, because you have an idea that you have to have this higher purpose. But what we tend to do is focus on the higher purpose instead of going back to the basics, like you just said. So this has been helpful. Still figuring this thing out. But like you said, there's a lot of people that you have to pay a lot of money for. And in the end of the day, what's it worth? Right. My philosophy is, you ask what you need and not what you want. And
right. Well, can I ask you a question? And sorry, what's your name again? Remco?
Well, it still is my name.
That's your name. Well, what is it that you do? You're a consultant?
Yeah, so I call myself business performance consultant. I'm the guy that puts on the coveralls, the boots, and dives into the business to clean up.
And
instead of telling people what to do and which book to read.
And what gave you, your background in wanting to do this? Why are you the expert in that field?
Because I'm always the one left holding the bag when the shit hits the fan. That's literally what happens.
And there's a story of along the way how that started, I'm sure, that is relatable to other people that would be worth sharing. And you can almost say that in 10 different ways for a month of Monday posts.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Thank you so much. Yeah, and the reason why this happens is because I'm very slow mentally. So when there's a problem, everybody steps away, goes, oh my God. And I'm going, problem? What are we talking about? So I'm always the one standing in the front of the line. So I just
can I just tell you that self-effacing humor is a precursor for thought leadership?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's a great video, a great post. So when we get this, so I mentioned this revenue operating system idea. So when the community platform launches in September 15th, one of the anchoring pieces of it is that revenue operating system, and it has all these modules in it. And this is, so you can look at the way I'm looking at it is, first, understand your customer hero journey story and write it. And there's sort of a methodology about how to write a story like that. And then second, you write your trusted advisor story, which is how do you intersect at the moment where that hero hits bottom? And how do you become the fairy godmother relationship and establish that relationship based on the stuff you just said, really, like your own story. And then there's another part of it called market point of view story, which is understanding how to explain the conventional wisdom to people, why it doesn't work right, and what your big reveal idea is that maybe they don't know about. And then from there, there's a content approach of building the content machine, but you have the platform done then. You got all this stuff like in a document, and all you do And then like Stephanie said, there's the organizing like educational, instructional, motivational, inspirational, promotional. So you mix up all those different, but you can like organize this whole thing.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that foundational understanding of yourself and your customer, it won't work as well.
And I'll say though that it is very draining to be that creative, and not all of us have that skill. But if you do sit down one day and understand that this is just a part of your business process now, I think you would be surprised. You get kind of like a flow going, and you can get, an entire 30 days worth of content out there. And then what will end up happening as you get that flow going is you'll have a morning where you have a current share that something just happened, and it's more of an authentic moment, and maybe there's an image that goes with it. So then you bump back another one of your days, and you have content that's constantly ready and flowing.
Who else would like to comment or come up?
Larry, I'll add a point here because I spend a lot of my time marketing my books. You can do some Google research. There's all these crazy national days that you can link into. For instance, I think it's September the 6th or something like that coming up is National Procrastination Day. So, there you go. So you want to do something, I'll probably do a Twitter post on it or something. But none of my books relate to that, but one of my friends' books relates to that. So we're actually thinking about, sorry, I got a hair problem here today, thinking about how to do something around National Procrastination Day. So you can look up, just Google things like National Day, National Holiday, not holidays, but just national days, and tie your content to that, make it topical.
And I just want to say that while that's such a great idea, I think it can get a little bit boring sometimes when people do that. So you have to also think about, is it catchy enough to stop people in their tracks in the feed, right? So I like that one, like Procrastination Day. Like that's funny, right? And not a lot of people know about that. But I think when you National Save the Turtle Day, like it's a little bit like no one cares, right? So you have to try to figure out if it's still relatable.
Well, make sure it's relatable to your customer. Quite frankly, it doesn't matter what you think, doesn't matter what I think, what my customers think. So if it's relatable to my customers, then yeah, it makes sense.
Agreed.
I want to
Stephen, why don't you post the National Procrastination Day post like a week after the event later, and just say that you didn't get around to it.
There you go.
That's funny.
You're now early for next year's day.
If you could do, look, guys, I mean, that's the whole thing. If you want to use humor, do it that way. I'm the kind of person to do it the other way, and might do something like plan for National Procrastination. Plan what you're going to procrastinate tomorrow as kind of a thought leader of content thing. You could do it either way. You could post it on Thursday or on the 4th. And again, I think it's the 6th. I don't remember, but you could do it before, you could do it on, you could do it after, you could do all three. It depends on what's going to attract your clients and your prospects.
Agreed.
And that's what marketing's all about.
I think Stephanie said something like it's a write it down kind of thing. And I want to make sure I got this right. It took a year. You said it took a year, right? Before you got picked up.
It was about a year. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm writing it down again. It took a year. 12 months, 18 months. Yeah, that's how it is. But to make it take a year, you got to do it like every day. You got to have a strategy, and you got to kind of talk about things in guardrails, I think. So you have to get known, because I remember somebody was telling us about marketing and outbound sales and everything. It's like, by the time you are like completely sick and fed up with what you're talking about, the other person is just starting to begin to notice.
To notice what you even do.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, agreed. And I'll say that it was also about the same time when really revenue started to increase for us.
It took a year to see a revenue impact.
Like tremendous impact.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So most companies that have formal budgeting processes would cut the budget for that activity.
Absolutely.
They don't see an ROI. They're all measuring ROI. So they don't see an ROI in 3 months. the program's done and they move on to the next thing.
So true. That's why you should avoid paying high prices for things and just do it for free for a while until you start really making progress. That's my opinion. We did it the backwards way.
Matt, you had a question? The 12 months UCS?
Oh
You were
yeah, I
asking
was
about the
wondering.
product.
So yeah, she had some. Stephanie's talking about, okay, I've got this content strategy. I'm a social media expert, but you had some ultimate goal in
Yes.
mind, or you were selling something, some kind of product or service. What was that? I mean, what was your focus then?
So when I first started doing content online, it was geared towards property damage insurance claims. So United Claim Specialist. So I also do some syndication. I buy multifamily. I have a marketing company. So I do a lot of things, but this was to help support our sales team initially. So I said, okay, if we're going to get you guys into these video courses, I'm going to participate. And I was really just trying to encourage my team. And then I ended up being the one that really dedicated the most time. And so it was a B2B service, really.
Okay.
Yeah, which is harder to
Understand.
sell. Right?
Right.
B2B is harder to sell, especially when it doesn't pertain to everyone. Not everyone is a property owner. So even then we're saying, a year for something that is more difficult to connect on an everyday basis. Coaching could be easier because everyone can have a need for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Got it. Thank you. I was curious how you got onto that Forbes list. Right?
For property damage.
Right. That's pretty interesting.
It was really bizarre, but it also shows like this is a very unattractive industry that not many people do not know what a public adjuster is. Right. So that was really, I think, even more proof to us how awesome LinkedIn is and how awesome having a personal brand and showing up every day really is.
Mm-hmm. When you say personal brand, was that where did that come out? Of course, it's coming out in your videos because people are seeing you and you're being authentic and they can see you and hear you, but you're still focusing on your product or service in a way, right? Or no?
So it's the storytelling, right? That becomes your brand. So what I mentioned before when we were talking about, how is it that you really create content, right? It's recognizing like, this is my life. This is my story. This is what led me to the career I'm in now. So how did I get here? How do I share that in an authentic way, but also connect with people? So I am sharing my personal brand through my storytelling and through my images and I have a lot of pink in my content, right? The flower, as we talked about a little bit before. So these are all the things that make up my personal brand. So I remember being in corporate. I'm not sure everyone's position, if everyone is a small business owner or what, but in corporate, it's very difficult to have a personal brand because you are under a large brand. So when you start to have your own personal brand, what is their biggest fear? It's that they're connecting to you and your personal experience, your personal sharing, your personal journey. And they don't like that because they want people to connect with their large brand. So that's your personal brand. That's what this is all about. And I think the storytelling we all have really cool stories. And I think you just have to figure out a way to get it out there in the best way.
Right. So you talked about your own personal story or journey to get you to property damage insurance.
Right. I mean, well, listen, it's also real estate, but it's true. So I'll go through it as quickly as possible. I started my career. I was supposed to go to law school. I had taken the LSAT, right? Then all of my friends were getting jobs that just graduated law school. And it was during the housing crisis where everyone was in foreclosure and we were in big trouble in the United States. So my friends could only get jobs out of law school for 40 or 50K a year, and they were at foreclosure mills. So I said to myself, I am not going to take out $300,000 in debt to go to law school when the market is questionable. So I took a job at a foreclosure mill, and I ended up rising to a national sales rep level. I was making 250K a year within 5 years, and I never went to law school. So I had been taking people's homes back for banks during this whole time, but I was also learning investment strategy, and I was learning how to acquire acquisitions for larger groups and do some trading of assets. And I learned about notes. So when I finally had reached a point in my career where I started buying real estate because I learned from this, oddly enough, good, bad experience, I then found out about public adjusting, and I wanted to help people protect their real estate investments because for so many years I hurt people. So that's like a whole story. And we can talk about 10 different things here that make me who I am now, that are relatable from real estate investors' perspective, from property owners' perspective, from property damage insurance claims perspective. It's all part of this, and people want to work with people that they can relate to. So that's my story, and that's how I talk about property damage. Right?
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was curious, because I figured it was UCS, but I didn't understand how that came together for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
We've got about another 5 minutes or so, and then we'll switch into the networking model when for anyone who wants to stay. So anybody else want to step up here? Any final kind of thoughts?
This has been really fun. I hope I didn't bore you all with my crazy long story about property damage and foreclosure life. But I think that this is really like honest share. You guys have a great group here.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful. And, you know, I think that idea of you didn't bore us because you didn't really talk about it. You know, you talked about your journey in it. You didn't talk about how it works. And I see so much content of people posting their explanations of their process or whatever. And yeah, it's pretty boring.
Right. I think that the one thing I've realized is that I would like to create content that I also would like to see other people creating, that will stop me and make me interested and want to know more. I talk about one thing that I think is really funny and so basic. There is a dentist that is local to me that posts on LinkedIn. The dentist makes videos and shares like moments that are kind of funny. They look like they're skits in a way, but they also share about like people in the office. And I have been with one dentist for 10 years. I no longer go to them anymore because I appreciate this new dentist content so much. It's that simple, right? So I'd like to create things that also have an impact like that.
That's so interesting. And so I don't know if people here have seen Michael Eckstein, I think it is, but his tagline says, world's cutest accountant.
That's great. It's funny.
It is. And his content's nuts because he's crazy. Like he's a character.
Right.
So
and that helps too. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
But not everyone is a character. I'm really not a character. I can't make funny skits. That's just not who I am.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be funny to make it work.
No, like you said, you have to be authentic.
Yeah.
You have to own your voice.
Right. To see me trying to be funny in a video would probably make you want to unfollow me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. It was
thanks for having me.
Very, very helpful. Now you have a coaching company around developing brands and stuff like this. So if anybody's interested in that, what steps should they take?
Just reach out to me. I mean, the best place to do is to reach me is really LinkedIn, but you can check out my website. It's stephaniesaunders.com.
All right, sounds
Or
good.
I'll put my email in here too.
Okay.
Yeah. And the lights I shared, it looks like the price went up.
Oh, it's hard to get stuff now.
Yeah, I remember during the
Sometimes.
pandemic, I bought a bicycle for my patio and it was about $45. And I sent the link to someone like 2 weeks later and it was like $1,000.
Oh my
So
God.
it's, you know, during the pandemic.
Yeah, a lot of prices have gone up because I was talking to a friend of mine who works for a publishing company out of Canada, but a shipping container from like whatever, Turkey or China or whatever, used to be $4,000 to fill a container. It's now $23,000 to fill a container, and they can't get that money back. So of course, prices for whatever is in that container has to go up. So until things neutralize and get back, you know, so I'm in branding. So a lot of the stuff comes from other, you know, I do promotional products and things like that. So it's like everything has gone up. Now we pay a tariff also on things that come over because we started charging a tariff to them. So China came and they charge a tariff to us.
Where are you located?
Around Chicago.
Oh, you're in Chicago. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I've noticed there's a VAT fee to ship anything internationally now. And if you
Yeah.
order something, I used to order tea from a British place and every single time it gets stuck in customs and they ask
Yeah.
for a passport. It's a very strange time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure it'll settle down at some point. All right. Well, thanks again. That was awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stick around, or if you need to leave, you know.
I have to
we'll get
jump.
it.
Yeah,
So-
I have to jump, but it was a pleasure meeting all of you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.